Hi, welcome to multiplying fractions. One of the things that you want to do when you look at multiplication with fractions is something called cross cancellation. So they actually want you to look diagonally, like at the 3 and the 5. You could think about it as if it were a fraction that you were going to simplify. Do 3 and 5 have a factor in common that you can simplify them by? And they don't. So now let's look across at the 8 and the 4. Since the 4 is on top, I'm going to write it on top and I'm going to put the 8 on bottom. So if you think about 4 and 8, do they have a common factor that you can simplify them by? And yes, they do. They're both divisible by 4. So I want to keep this number 4 and think about that as I cross cancel. So 4 divided by the 4 that they have in common is 1, and 8 divided by the 4 that they have in common is 2. Now, like I said, you couldn't simplify this direction, so I'm finished, and I simply multiply straight across my numerators. That would be a 3, and then I multiply my denominators. It's 2 now instead of the 8 because I crossed that out, so 2 times 5 is 10. And that's the answer. Whenever you get a fraction in your answer, you always want to ask yourself the is question. Is this fraction improper? That's what the I stands for. No, it's not. And is this fraction simplified? And yes, this is in simplest form. Let's take a look at the second fraction. So this time, I'm going to look across diagonally for my cross cancellation. You can think about it as cross simplification. 3 and 15, what do they both have in common? What factor? Well, they're both divisible by 3. So I'm going to think about that number. 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 15 divided by 3 is 5. Alright, so we took care of that. Now let's look across the diagonal in the other direction. So we have a 14 and a 7. What factor, what's the greatest common factor that they have in common? And it's 7. 7 divided by 7 is 1, and 14 divided by 7 is 2. Now I finished my cross cancellation, so I just simply multiply my numerators, and then I multiply my denominators, and I get 2/5. Again, I'm going to ask myself the is question. Is your fraction improper? No, it's not. Is it simplified? And yes, it is. It's in simplest form. Let's take a look at another problem. Let's take a look at this top fraction. So we're going to look for cross cancellation. I have a 5 on top and a 5 on bottom with this diagonal. They're both divisible by 5. So 5 divided by 5 is 1, and 5 divided by 5 is 1. Now I'm going to look this direction. I have a 4 and a 6. So if you need to, you can think about it like this. What's the biggest number? What's the greatest common factor that they have in common? And it's 2. So I'm going to divide them both by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. I'm done with my cross cancellation, so I'm simply going to multiply my numerators and my denominators. And I get 2/3. 2/3 is simplified, and it's not proper. So let's move to the next one. Whenever you see a whole number, go ahead and write a 1 underneath it. Now, you're going to look for cross cancellation. If you see a 1 on the bottom or the top, you're finished with that because they don't have anything in common except a 1. So now we're going to look the other way. 8 and 16, what do they have in common? Well, 8 goes into 16 2 times. So they're both divisible by 8, and 8 divided by 8 is 1. I simply multiply across, and I get 10 over 1, which equals 10. Okay, let's try another one. Alright, let's take a look at this problem. This one has 2 mixed numbers. You cannot multiply mixed numbers. I'm going to have to change this one into an improper fraction. So 4 times 1 is 4 plus 1 is 5. I'm going to keep the 4. Alright, and now I'm going to change this one as well. 6 times 1 is 6 plus 1 is 7. Alright, now we're ready to multiply. I'm going to look across for cross cancellation. 5 and 6 don't have anything in common that I can simplify them by, and neither do 7 and 4. So I'm actually done with that, and I'm going to have to multiply straight across my numerators and my denominators. 35/24. So I'm going to ask myself the is question. Is my fraction improper? Yes, it is, because the top number is bigger than the bottom. So I'm going to divide it. 35 divided by 24. It goes in one time, and I have 9 left over. So my answer is 1 9/24. Well, you would think that we would be done, but we're not, because when we asked the is question, we fixed the improper part, but now I came up with another fraction. I have to look at that fraction and ask, is it in simplest form? And no, it's not. 9 and 24 are both divisible by 3. So that would give me 3 and 8. So now my answer is 1 3/8. This is multiplying with fractions. Thank you for visiting my video, and check out my others online.